call the honourable member for Holt.
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker. I'd like to ask the Minister a question particularly relating to offshore resettlement for people in certain countries. And I do so, Minister, having spoken with my good friend, the member for Chifley, and particularly about an issue that the member for Chifley and I have spoken about, which is Coptic Christians, and Coptic Christians in Australia, and also Coptic Christians, particularly those that are in Egypt, at a very problematic time for them. And I wish, Minister, to raise this particular issue in light of the turmoil in the Middle East over the past 18 months, which we'd be all aware of, especially in light of the instability that we know and we are seeing on our TV screens in Egypt. I'd take you back, Minister, particularly in asking this question, to the events of the 1st of January 2011, when 22 people died after a suicide bomber set off a massive explosion as hundreds of Coptic Christians celebrated a New Year's Eve service in the Church of Two Saints in Alexandria. A horrific atrocity. Several congregation members who were killed in this murderous atrocity had relatives in this country, in Australia. Moreover, since the start of the Egyptian Revolution, violence in general, and also most specifically against Coptic Christians, has increased. Some of the more prominent examples are the church burnings in Sul and Al-Marinab, the terrible violence at Maspero in Cairo on the 9th of October 2011, which resulted in 27 deaths and 300 injuries, also affected our Coptic community in Australia greatly, as well as over there, as the targeted victims of this terrorist attack. In particular, Minister, Salafist groups have organised violent demonstrations against Christians, for example, falsely claiming that Kamalia Shahata, the wife of an Orthodox priest, had converted to Islam. The same group posted a film on the internet repeating the ridiculous claims of Dutch journalist Lex Rundenkamp that Christians in the village of Al-Marinab had set fire to their own church under construction. As well as the ongoing instability, Coptic Christians have also spent many months grieving the passing of His Holiness Pope Shenouda III. Now, Pope Shenouda was an incredibly powerful voice for unity, for tolerance and for reconciliation. He was a much-loved leader of the Coptic Christians around the world and a great leader of his church who had a strong commitment to Egypt's national unity. And with his passing, it's made the transition to a new democratic Egypt all the more complicated. These are definitely difficult times for Coptic Christians in Egypt and also Australia. In recent discussions with Coptic Christians who represent, as the Minister knows, 80,000 strong Coptic Australian Christian community, it's made clear to me that they're not pleased towards this strong shift towards Islamicism in Egypt. The Islamist parties have collectively won approximately 73% of the votes in parliamentary elections this year. With Egypt in the midst of presidential elections at present, many Christians now fear for the worst. As an Islamist president who will enforce restrictive laws for Christians and Liberals in the country. I also just like to say, and particularly given that they would be keen for me to be asking you this question, I know that you have met with Bishop Suriel. You've been good enough to come down to my electorate and met with Father Abenu and His Grace, Bishop Suriel. This is an issue that has been brought to our attention for some period of time. I'm very proud to say that I have a very large and strong Coptic community in my electorate. And when in asking this question, which I'm about to do, Minister, with respect to what you're doing, to give us an update about how you're helping people like Coptic Christians who are finding themselves in danger and want to come to this country under the humanitarian program, I do so, as I said, on behalf of my constituents, the Coptic Christian constituents, particularly at St Mina and St Marita Church, which you have been down to. It's one of these things where you can hypothesise about this, you watch it on your TV screens, you look at it and there's some distance, but when you meet with people whose families have been killed over in Egypt, when you see the desperation of these people looking at their TV screens, looking for hope, looking for information about what's happening when they see what's happening in Egypt, you can understand the impetus behind their requests to find out whether or not they can come to this country through the humanitarian program. So, Minister, on the community's behalf, and I guess on behalf of my good friend, the member for Chifley, Ed Husick, I'd like to ask you what you're doing through this humanitarian program to help minorities like the Coptic Christians who find themselves in danger, who actually want to come to this country.